In the legal world, there is a combination of forces that feed a corrupt and suffocating legal system for attorneys. Law schools, law professionals, judges, and even the firms themselves for whom you work create a system, a matrix, if you will, that is nothing like what you thought when you passed the bar exam. The purpose of this podcast is to help you escape this legal matrix, leading you out of the proverbial desert to be free of the bondage of the matrix. Hosted by Bryce D. Nyer, attorney at law with over 30 years experience in the trenches of civil and criminal litigation at the state, federal, and international levels. He's a highly accomplished and resourceful legal professional, a true master of his craft, and he's here to help you get your life back. Here's your host, Bryce D. Nyer.
Hey, it's Bryce D. Nyer here from the great state of North Carolina, talking and continuing on in our discussion of escape from the legal matrix, an attorney's exodus from legal bondage. So, just want to check in with everybody. How are you doing today? I'm doing great. Can't complain. And if I did complain, probably nobody would care. So, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about Alive at 55. Say it again. Alive at 55. And what does that mean? Well, I'm going to tell you what it means. So, for a reference point, back in the day, back in the 70s, when we had this oil embargo going on and high prices and inflation and everything, they reduced the speed limit on the interstates from like 75, 80 miles an hour to 55. And let me tell you, people were having heart attacks and strokes over that. It was just like you were crawling along on the interstate. Everybody hated it. And the federal government mandated that the states do this or they couldn't get their federal highway money. So it was kind of a blackmail to the states. And it was supposed to cut the consumption in fuel and not make us so dependent on the OPEC nations. That's a joke. And so they had these campaigns going, these marketing campaigns on TV, like, Arrive Alive, Live at 55, to try and sell this idea that just doing 55 miles an hour in your lane, going up the interstates and across the country was just fine, and you'll get where you're going, but you're going to arrive alive. And then adding on, all these accidents where people doing 75, 80, 90 miles an hour, that the probability of dying in those type of accidents at those speeds were a lot greater than 55 miles an hour. Well, again, it didn't go over very well, and people were still getting speeding tickets on the interstate, lead feet, pedal to the floor. I mean, it just sucked. 55 mile an hour, it was horrible. And so this went on for a number of years. And so it coincides with what we're going to talk about because 55 it's a key age for most people. And then, of course, when we were talking about staying in your lane back in the highway, stay in your lane at 55, arrive alive, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so you're in the legal profession. Maybe you're brand new or you're new to whatever profession you're in. And if you've just gotten out of law school, again, typically if you've gone straight from undergraduate to law school, which law school is 3 years, unless you go to some programs that are year-round and you do it in 2. So you're about 25 years old, maybe in your mid-20s, depending upon, again, where you're at. And you think your life has just begun and it's going to be great and everything's exciting, everything's new. It's like that new dating relationship. And then somewhere along the line, 30 years or so goes by. And you're sitting there in your 50s and you're like, oh my God, where did the time go? Where did my life go? And you look in the mirror and you're like, oh my God, I really do have gray hair. And this dress or these pants, they're snug. And you may have been through 1 or 2 divorces, gone through alimony, child support, poverty division. Over this 30-year period, you've slaved away to the legal matrix, to this legal profession, which, again, is really just organized crime. And you're now 55, and you're sitting there going, if I had just known then what I know now, I would completely do everything differently. How many of you out there have said that? Seriously, come on, think about it. No matter how old you are, if where you are in life, how many of you have looked back and said, damn, if I had just known then what I know right now today, I wouldn't have done A, B, C, and D. I wouldn't have married A, B, C, and D. I would have chosen a totally different profession. I would have done everything totally differently. No, it's true. Some people will say, I wouldn't do anything differently. I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't done blah, 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 blah. I'm like, man, your life sucks today. It just sucks. And you want to sit there and say you would not go back and change it? What the hell is wrong with you? Because I'm going to tell you, folks, I would change a lot in my life. My story, if I could go back and redo things, there would be certain people I wouldn't have dated. I would not have married. I would have taken different paths. I would have enjoyed myself more in certain things. I would not have made certain decisions about what I did or what I said. I do a lot of things differently. You bet I would. I sure as hell would. No doubt in my mind. Beyond a reasonable doubt. That's standard in a criminal trial, by the way. It's just throwing that in there for you law students and taking criminal law. But getting back to what we're talking about, I noticed in my life and my career that most people, it's not really in their 40s, okay? It's not really in their 40s that they have this desire for a sudden transformation in their life or their career. Because in your 20s, you're not really sure. You're still exploring things, relationships. Some of you are still trying to pretend like you're in college. Well, you're not. You're getting older, and there's a difference between 25 or 29 and 18 to 22. There's a big difference. There just is. And in your 30s, maybe you're making more money. Maybe you've gotten married now. Maybe you started to have some rugrats. But you're still young, and you're still trying to cling to your 20s, and you're in this kind of weird place in between your 20s and heading toward 40. And 40 is actually a pretty cool age. A lot of people actually get better looking. Some of them get smarter. But it's not until you really get to your 50s that you really start to take a deep look at yourself, your personal life and your professional life. There's just something magic about that particular time in your life where you are still, you're still young enough. I mean, in today's age, being in your 50s is not old. 200 years ago, most people, might be dead by their 35. But today, that is young. It really is. But you still, this 30-year mark, this 30-year period, especially in the legal profession, I found, at least for me, I'm like, what the hell am I doing? And I began to question everything. And I felt like at times I was just the walking dead. And I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know what to say. At times I would talk to some of my friends. I'm like, I'm feeling this way. And some of them, might be in their 40s, maybe in their 30s, maybe some were the same age. And it hadn't hit them yet. And I felt just this radical shift, this radical desire for this radical transformation inside me. And I just, it was about at that 30-year mark. And as time went forward, it got more and more intense. And I realized that when you're in a profession, and especially in the legal profession, it consumes you. It forces you to be somebody that you're really not. You're not. You lose perspective. You lose perception. You lose focus. And you lose clarity all through those decades, those years. And it happens so fast, you don't even know it because you've slaved away for so long. All those hours at the office, in court, dealing with clients and their problems and their lives and everybody else, to where you just completely forgot all about yourself. So you've been cruising along at 55 miles per hour because the Matrix put you in that lane at that speed and held you there to where you weren't free, you weren't independent, and you weren't pursuing your own lane and your own path at, say, 90 miles an hour. You were contained and held back. And then you realize it. And you're like, oh my God. 30 years has gone by. And this feeling you have, this pit in your stomach, and you begin to question everything. And then you're like, how do I get out of where I am? And how do I end this feeling, this void, this pain? I mean, 'cause I felt it. I mean, God, it just would not go away. It ate at me and gnawed at me. And I'd wake up and I'd toss and turn. And I'd be like, God, is this all there is? Is this it? And I began, this is also the age, this 30-year mark out of law school. You begin to miss your friends. You do. Most people, like when you're right out of high school, you're like, I want to go to college. Hell with high school, that's babyish. And then you get out of college, you keep in contact with your college friends, and you don't even think about high school people. But when 30 years down the road, the people that you grew up with since you were like in kindergarten, they start to mean more to you. And people start to mean more to you, and those memories start to mean more to you because you had a life before the legal matrix. And see, the legal matrix wants to numb you to that. It wants to cut out the fact that you used to have a life. You had loved ones, you had friends, you had freedom, you could breathe, and then it took it all away in a vacuum. It just took it all away. And you lived in a vacuum. And that's what the legal matrix does. That's what the legal profession does. But it really doesn't have to be that way. But the problem is that the legal profession has basically indoctrinated and brainwashed law students and lawyers to act, believe, behave, and accept a certain way of life because they plug into you. And that's all you know anymore. And when you finally become detached from the legal matrix, you do awaken. And you're like, oh my God, I had friends. I had family members. I had loved ones. I had real relationships. Oh God, I remember what the ocean was like. And breathing the salt air and going to picnics and barbecues and being with friends and real hugs. And it starts that once you detach, you're like, where have I been all these years? And now you're saying, where do I go from here? Where do I go from here? And how do I keep my freedom again and not let the legal matrix take it away from me? And you are going to reach that point. Everybody I know, and I know lots of people in the legal profession, and I talk to them every single day. Different lawyers, different friends, here where I am in my legal community and across the world, I meet other lawyers, and it's the same thing. The legal matrix is worldwide in every profession. Okay? It affects every lawyer, no matter what country, what territory, what state, what city, what county. It doesn't matter. Okay? It's an equal opportunity controller. It plugs in to everybody. And again, it starts the minute you apply to law school. It hooks you to an addiction of a way of life that takes your freedom, your focus, and your clarity, and you have no game. And the only game you can play is the game that the Matrix is going to allow you to play. Step out of line, foul. Step out of bounds, foul. Time out. And the Matrix they'll put you in timeout. Timeout could be in a hospital in a mental ward with a therapist or an addiction counselor. That's your timeout. But again, it does not have to be that way. But see, nobody's told you this truth. Nobody wants you to know. Other lawyers are too scared to tell you what the truth is because they're so enmeshed in the legal matrix, they can't get out because they don't want to get out. They're afraid. They're afraid of not having certain lifestyles and money. But in reality, they don't have anything. You know what they have? They have a high-priced prison. They have a big house, a boat, a car, and you know what? They're not enjoying it. For a while, I wasn't enjoying anything in my life. Okay, I'd go to the beach and I wasn't feeling it. Go to my house, go to my big pool. I wasn't feeling it. I felt numb. I felt like my taste buds for life were dead. Just dead. Gray, void, black, dark, shadow, cloud. Because that's what the Matrix does, if you let it. And so what did I do? Well, I'll tell you what I did. Well, that one day when I finally awakened, and it was in my 50s. And it had been some decades since I'd been licensed. And I just sat there and I popped open a cold beer. And I just sat there and listened to some music. And I thought, what in the hell have I done to myself? And if you were taking a new bar exam and that was a question on the essay portion, I could have written 4 days. But really, I could have summed it up in less than a paragraph. I became a slave to the legal matrix. And that's what happens. And that's what happened to me. But it doesn't have to stay that way. See, there's a movement afoot. And I'm leading that movement. And that movement is to live and operate in total truth. Because the legal matrix does not want you to live in truth. It doesn't want you to know what freedom is anymore. The legal profession is an animal. It's a dangerous animal. It's a special, unique, closed society that certain people and entities at the top will do anything to control its own profession. There's money in the profession, but it's at the highest levels. It's a private club. And brothers and sisters, you don't have the card or the keys to get in. You're in the lower tiers of the matrix, the one where they control you. They make money off of you. Your blood, sweat, and tears is what is used, not theirs. And if you want to be at that upper tier level, at the highest level of the matrix, then you're going to have to sell your soul. And once you do that, you're done. There's no going back. You take the mark of the matrix, you're done. You're done. The matrix is the opposite. The legal matrix is the opposite of everything that is truthful and good. The legal profession, because of the legal matrix, has become all spin, lies. There is not equal justice, and it consumes lawyers' lives to work for it. You are on a chain gang. That's what you are on. And for you law students, you don't know it yet because you're too excited. It's all academic at this point. You're just glad to be at a law school. And you're just thinking about when you get out, where you're going to work and passing the bar exam. And it consumes you, see? It controls you because that's all you can think of because you want to be part of the club. And it's going to let you be part of the club, but you're going to be controlled by the matrix. And before you know it, all those years, I mean, the seconds turn to minutes, turn to hours, turn to days, turn to weeks, turn to months, turn to years, turns to decades, and before you know it, Your life has passed you by, but not at 90 miles an hour. It was just at 55. Arrive at 55, alive. But the whole time, you've been dead. Until that one day when you're like, you know what? I am not going to stay at 55 miles an hour. I am not going to stay in my lane. And if the legal matrix popo want to chase me down, well, bring it on, brother. Because I'm moving out, moving on. And that's what you're going to have to do. That's exactly what you have to do. You have to make a stand. You have to make a statement. You have to declare your independence from the legal matrix. And if you're a student right now, or you're even thinking about going to law school, or you're in law school, or you're a young attorney, and maybe you've been out for a few years, you're going to start to feel at some point there's going to be something in the back of your brain that's going to click with you and resonate from what I'm saying. And if you're not scared, you need to be. You need to have a real fear inside of you of the legal matrix. Because if you don't, you're going to walk off the cliff like a lemming into the ocean. You're going to drown. And it's going to get worse. That's the whole problem. See, you become the walking dead in a single lane highway at 55 miles an hour while the people are free or zooming at 90 miles an hour and living the free life. They're not being held back by anybody or anything, and they're not controlled by anybody or anything, and they're making the rules for their life, and they're living their life in freedom and truth. And the matrix won't let you do that if you stay connected to it. You have to disconnect. It won't happen in one or two conversations. It's a series of conversations here. It's a series of conversations with me. I know what I'm talking about. I've been in this world for decades until I couldn't stand it anymore. And if you don't do something about it, it only becomes worse. Bad news never gets better with time. Listen to me. Bad news never gets better with time. It does not. You've got to solve the problem. You solve the conversation by taking action. And you have conversations of how to take that action. You talk to me over a series of conversations. You consult with me. You hire me. I lead you out of the matrix. I know how to do it. I know the pitfalls. I know the red flags. I understand the legal matrix. All these other lawyers and all these self-help programs and blah, 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 and continuing legal education, they're not going to allow you to escape because they're part of the legal matrix. You have to identify the enemy. You have to know the enemy. You have to know who they are and what they look like. And some of them, they're wolves in sheep's clothing. And I can teach you how to spot them. But if you don't do what you need to do and take that first step and have that conversation with me and talk to me and hire me and have these consultations of conversations of freedom and possibilities and a path to getting the hell out of the hell that you're in. And ask yourself, do you really want to work for somebody else the rest of your life? Do you just want to be in that lane at 55 miles an hour, controlled, going nowhere except up the highway? That's it? That's all there is for the rest of your life? That's painful. That's prison. Or do you want to be zooming on your own highway and your own path? Being in charge of your life. Commanding a law firm, commanding a business, but you making the decisions of what you do or what you don't do, or where you go or where you don't go, who you associate with, who you don't associate with. That's freedom. That's freedom. Take action. Don't screw around with this. Make the call. Contact me. We're building an army of free lawyers. Legal warriors. We're fighting the legal matrix. To live in truth, to speak the truth, to do the right thing, to fight the good fight. You cannot do it alone. You can't. Because you don't have the skill sets. You don't have the experience. You don't. You may not want to admit it, but you don't. Make the decision. Don't wait. Do it now. The longer you wait, the bigger the cancer grows. And you know what the cancer is. It's the Legal Matrix. Okay, this is Bryce D. Nyer. I'm signing off here. Remember this, love and light to each and every one of you. You have some homework. You know what to do. You have a call to action. You have a choice to make. Choose wisely. Bryce out.